Rachael Raygun Gunn's journey from Olympic hopeful to controversial public figure has been filled with scandal, public backlash, and questionable decisions. What started as a promising athletic career has since been overshadowed by conflict of interest, bullying accusations, and a lackluster performance that left Australia embarrassed rather than proud. Raygun's time in the spotlight has proven that even the most promising careers can be ruined by unchecked ego, bad decision-making, and a disregard for professionalism. Raygun's involvement in breakdancing's Olympic debut in 2024 has become one of the most controversial aspects of her career. As a judging panel member for the newly introduced sport, Raygun found herself embroiled in a conflict of interest that would tarnish the event before it even began. Not only was she and her husband given the power to judge who would represent Australia, but Raygun herself had never proven herself as an elite breakdancer. She was seen as a questionable choice for such a critical position given her limited experience and mediocre performance in the sport. Her involvement as a judge while having limited skills in breakdancing raised serious ethical concerns. Instead of being selected for her merit or ability to represent the sport, Raygun's position was granted largely because of her celebrity status and connections. The optics of this situation were damaging, particularly when it was revealed that she and her husband, who also worked closely with the selection process, were directly involved in determining which athletes would have the honor of competing for the country. Many broke the news that Raygun's performance in breakdancing was far from Olympic level, and the decision to have her judge the sport came across as self-serving, prioritizing connections over merit. Australia's reaction was one of outright disappointment, as the public questioned whether Raygun was the right representative for a sport as important and high-profile as the Olympics. Raygun's flawed involvement in the sport raised serious concerns about the integrity of the judging process and left many feeling that favoritism had gotten in the way of fairness. Raygun's most disastrous public moment came not in the world of breakdancing, but in the realm of comedy and intellectual property. In an absolutely shocking turn of events, Raygun's legal team sent a legal threat to comedian Steph Broadbridge, claiming that Broadbridge's parody musical Breaking the Musical was too similar to Raygun's personal brand and should be canceled. The satire, which mocked Raygun's public persona and her role in the Olympics, was met with a forceful and unwarranted legal attack. Instead of taking the joke in stride, Raygun used her influence and legal resources to shut down Broadbridge's creative expression. Raygun demanded $10,000 in legal fees to cover potential court costs should the case go to trial, even though Broadbridge had no intention of copying Raygun's work. She simply created a parody. The legal threats were not just unnecessary, they were downright bullying. Raygun's actions made it clear that she was more concerned with maintaining her reputation than supporting freedom of speech and creative expression. After the backlash, Raygun begrudgingly issued an apology, but it felt like a damage control tactic rather than a genuine attempt to mend fences. Her apology was framed as if she was doing Broadbridge a favor, but in reality she had been the one using her power to intimidate and silence a creative person. Despite Raygun's connections, controversial decisions, and her role in the breakdancing Olympics, her Olympic performance itself was far from stellar. The Australian public had high hopes for her participation, given her history as a high-profile athlete, but she failed to live up to the hype. In fact, many were embarrassed by her performance. It became evident that she was simply not the right representative for breakdancing at the global level. Raygun's performance wasn't just underwhelming, it was blatantly inadequate. For a sport as dynamic and technique-heavy as breakdancing, her participation in the Olympics highlighted a serious flaw in the selection process. She was meant to be an inspiration for young Australians, but instead, she became a symbol of failure and disappointment. Not only did she lack the necessary skill set, but her attitude toward the sport and others only made things worse. In the face of her lackluster performance, Raygun faced ridicule not only from the public, but also from her fellow competitors. Her failure to shine in the sport led many to question whether she was truly the right fit for such a high-profile role. The reaction was one of disgust, as the Australian public expected much more from someone who had been handed the opportunity to represent the country at the highest level. At the heart of Raygun's fall from grace is a massive ego that has made her nearly impossible to work with. From her role as a judge in breakdancing to her bullying of Steph Broadbridge, Raygun has displayed a consistent pattern of toxic behavior driven by a narcissistic sense of superiority. She was more concerned with her image and protecting her reputation than taking accountability for her actions or improving as an athlete. Raygun's approach to her career has been about maintaining the illusion of success rather than confronting her shortcomings. She wanted to be the center of attention, to be seen as the best at everything, whether or not she actually had the skills to back it up. This attitude, combined with her entitlement and lack of self-awareness, has led her down a path where the public no longer respects her. Instead, she's viewed as an arrogant figure who thinks she's untouchable, and that attitude has pushed people away. Raygun's toxic legacy has not only impacted her career, but also the integrity of the events she was involved in, from the corruption in Olympic breakdancing, judging, to the legal bullying of comedians. Her actions have painted a picture of an athlete consumed by ego and unwilling to acknowledge her flaws. She is now seen by many as a symbol of entitlement and self-interest, rather than a positive representative of Australia on the world stage. Her failures, both in her Olympic performance and in her personal actions, have shown that even those who appear promising can quickly fall from grace when their ego outweighs their talent. Raygun's downfall is a reminder of how quickly ego, entitlement, and a lack of self-awareness can destroy a promising career. Raygun's journey from Olympic hopeful to entitled celebrity is a textbook case of someone who got lucky and then mistook that luck for talent. Despite her lack of skill and expertise in breakdancing, she somehow found herself in a position of power, making key decisions about which athletes should represent Australia in this new Olympic event. She didn't earn her place through merit or exceptional talent. She exploited a loophole that allowed her to be judge and competitor at the same time. Raygun's initial selection for the Breakdancing Olympics raised eyebrows due to her mediocre performance. Unlike other athletes who worked tirelessly to master their craft, Raygun used her connections and public image to get ahead. She capitalized on the novelty of the sport being introduced to the Olympics and used her celebrity status to secure a spot. It wasn't her breakdancing skills that got her there, it was her ability to manipulate the system. Now, with her Olympic appearance behind her, Raygun seems to believe that her fame and influence are the result of personal merit. She has convinced herself that she is some kind of icon, but the reality is that she's just an athlete who capitalized on the loopholes and used her privileged position to avoid having to truly work for her success. Her egotistical belief that she deserves her fame despite her lack of true talent or contributions to the sport further adds to the growing perception that Raygun is a mediocre athlete who got lucky and doesn't recognize the importance of real hard work. At this point, it's unclear if Raygun can ever redeem herself. The damage to her public image and reputation is substantial, and the public has moved on from the Olympic hopeful they once supported. If she ever hopes to make a comeback, it will require more than just apologies or empty performances. She will need to demonstrate that she has grown beyond her ego, learned from her mistakes, and committed to being a better role model for future generations. However, given her track record, this seems unlikely. Raygun's fall from grace serves as a warning about the dangers of letting ego and self-interest drive your decisions. Without change, her legacy will remain one of disappointment, a cautionary tale for those who think talent and fame can protect them from the consequences of their toxic behavior. Raygun's fall from grace is a cautionary tale of how ego, entitlement, and a lack of accountability can destroy a promising career. From the Olympic corruption to the bullying and unjust legal threats, Raygun's behavior has turned her from a promising athlete into a public disgrace. Whether she can redeem herself will depend on her ability to recognize her mistakes and make real changes, something that seems unlikely given her history. Until then, her story will serve as a warning about the perils of unchecked ambition and the destructive power of ego.